coming up, Brother Kurt? Like, what was your upbringing like?
Brother, it was rough. You know, growing up in the '70s and growing up in a little country town. I was born in '71. You know, in Humphrey, Arkansas, and and I tell people this all the time: be careful what you expose your children to. I was exposed to what I call acute poverty, right? And growing up in that type of environment where the poverty was tough and the, educational outcome or resources was low, it developed low self-esteem in me. So growing up, I had to always look for something to make me feel good about being who I am, right? And that carried on into develop into drugs and alcohol and lewd behavior because I was angry.
Right, right.
I was angry about a lot of things, and as a child, I felt like I shouldn't have had to deal with the things that I dealt with. But in adulthood, I just thank God for the journey, man,
Right,
and realized that my mother did the best that she knew how to do.
Right, right.
Because a long time I blamed my mom, man, for
Right.
all the stuff that I went through.
Right, right.
But as an adult, who can we blame now?
Right.
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 But I had a rough childhood.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Two things that's getting me out with what you saying. You were saying about having low self-esteem, and then you spoke on your mom. You was blaming your mom, and these are two key things in our community that a lot of brothers are scared to talk about. But it's key root to a lot of us doing time,
Absolutely.
mental health,
Absolutely.
a lot of different things like that. And for you to speak on that like that, being comfortable with it, brother, because I can't act like I ain't been knowing Brother Kurt for a minute. Like me and Brother Kurt was incarcerated together. We gonna get into that. And he always had discipline. He always been militant. And he always thought on his own, moved on his own on what he felt. And he's still doing that today,
Absolutely.
being
Absolutely.
home. Now I want to talk about the prison reform. What you doing on that level? I see a lot of different things that you got going, a lot of different laws with Sarah Huckabee that's coming into play that you know about, that you can speak on. I've been hearing about the 100% when it comes to the violent charges and things like that. Can you talk to us a little bit about the prison reform and Ms. Huckabee?
Absolutely. I took that, I'm gonna say that banner up, man, around 2011. After going back into the system and realizing that I had left a lot of good brothers behind. After we got out, we really didn't look back. You know what I'm saying? You've been gone for 14, 15, 16 years, so you get out, you're trying to live your life, man. Right. But after going back in 2011 and seeing, some of the brothers that I had left with, bumped shoulders with, man, started out with, I told them when I left, we're warning you, and I said, I don't know what I'm gonna do when I leave here, so, but I'm gonna do something to try to help y'all cause, man. That's when I developed the movement called Gone But Never Forgotten. Right, and I started going around, and you've been down 30 years, brother. 25, 30 years. There's a gap that developed between you and family. So I go around and got the brothers' permission to go around and visit some of their moms and their pops and some of their wives and the girlfriend. They've been gone for a long time and rekindled that relationship, and it started there. And in my movement when we first started, it grew big, bro. And then COVID hit, but I got into the political arena. I never liked politics, right? Because politics is never fair, right?
Right.
But I had to get into politics. Not only did I get in it, I had to learn about it. I had to learn what it was in order to have enough information and enough networking power in order to try to help get the brothers out, man. Because praying about it and speaking about it and not bumping with the right shoulders, the ones that's making the law. That's why I took the fight to the state capitol. But when I did that, I started to realize that the only way to try to get the brothers out is get involved the laws that they were passing. And at this time, it was the juvenile sentencing law, which was Act 539. And I got real deep into that, man, because it was called Fair Sentencing Act for juveniles. And that's what I got into. That's what the movement started about. After it branched off into that and went into the political aspect, it was about trying to get the laws changed because it had already affected those who were 17 and under, right? But those who were 18 to 21 or to 25, it did not affect them, right? So that's what we were trying to do with the movement. Mine is just a grassroots organization trying to get out and develop enough momentum to get the attention that we needed in order to point and say, hey, look, we need to do this, right? Because like Shorter College, I feel right today that it's an insult for Shorter College to go in and give guys who have life sentences college courses, allow them to graduate, get degrees, and then say, well, you know, you've advanced, but you're gonna spend the rest of your life in prison with a college degree and not able to do nothing with it.
Right.
I just felt like that was a slap in the face. That's politics, right?
Almost sound like a scam. Money grab.
Most definitely a scam. You know, so it's just stuff like that, man, that we fight against, man. I ain't as deep in the fight as I was, man. It kind of broke my spirit. Then we didn't get the bill. I mean, the legislative session is going on right now, right? But I don't think we've gotten the momentum and gotten the attention even to get the bill to committee.
Is it enough brothers rallying behind you? No, even brothers like me. Do you got enough brothers really rallying behind you that have did time?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And that's what I tell the brothers inside the institution. I say, you know, we get out, we live our life. We might even send them a phone or enough money to get some, you know, but do we actually get involved? Right. Now, you got a few brothers that may take the banner up and run with it. Because, you know, I didn't need brothers out front. I just need you to show up when it's time to show up, right? We needed the numbers. We needed the photo ops, you know, and we could just, 75 brothers at the state capitol. Right. People ain't enough.
Right. And let me ask you about the 100% in Arkansas. Do you know anything about that new law that coming? How can you explain to these young Negroes how this thing works?
Man, I'm gonna show you something. They got this mega prison they're trying to build. It's 3,000 bed prison. They didn't get the resources the first time, but it's back up for committee, right? 3,000 beds. You don't have 3,000 people in jail right now, right? Because anytime they're talking about building prisons, expanding prisons, it's for the overcrowding of the jails. But if you ain't got but 150 people, 200 people, maybe 500 people that need to be sent to prison, that the jails are holding, why is you building a 3,000 bed prison when you got to keep it full? That's why you got, for residential burglary, you kick somebody door in today, you're going to be doing 100% of your time.
For residential burglary?
Residential burglary. If you kick somebody door in today, if somebody leave their door open and you go in there and steal something today, whatever they give you, you're going to do.
Now, what's the kicker to it? Do you got to have priors?
It's called under the Protect Arkansas, Arkansas Protect Act. See, Sarah Huckabee, she's smart, bro. She went around the institution and created a Protect Arkansas Act. Under the Protect Arkansas Act, you don't have to have nothing. No priors, no nothing. The Arkansas Protect is I may be saying it wrong, but it's a bill that they passed, and it's to protect the citizens in Arkansas. And if you get caught up with residential burglary, she came out with a list of charges that you can get 100%, 85%. I mean, just no parole, right? You know, 100%, there's no parole. You're going to do 100% of your time. She's not playing, right? And if you got, if you out on a charge, right, and you say you paroled out, and you got 45, you know, because, you know, when we went down, it was the Parole Act, right? Now it's the TE date, Transfer as Eligibility Date. And they still come out with 12, 13, 14, 15, 20 years on the TE date. If you go back now on a TE date, guess what you're going to do? All of it. Any violent charge, burglary, robbery, rape, murder, whatever it is,
Crucial.
you're going to do 100% of your time if you go back to the institution.
That's crucial. That's
Yeah.
you schooling me, cause
Yeah.
and we got to be careful, brothers and sisters,
Yeah.
like for real in Arkansas right now, man, because well, really everywhere, man.
Yeah.
It's like it's genocide with a like, and you know my story. I went to prison at 15, and I'm looking at the system right now, and the way things working, it's like it's a big scam, a big money grab. It ain't really. In prison, I had to change myself. Didn't nothing change me, SATP or any type of. But like we was just talking, by me doing time and being away from the streets, it might have saved my life,
Right.
or whatever the case might be. How do you feel about prison? A lot of people in our community, they totally against prison. They totally against law enforcement. Hell, they even against the annex. How do you feel about when it comes to prison? Do you feel like it's okay? Some of you Negroes need to be locked up. You know, it's
Yeah. Some of us need somewhere to go, off the streets.
right.
These young, I'm gonna say this. I went to a funeral. This is why I say this, right? I went to a funeral. Being a member of the Nation of Islam, we crowd control. I'm not gonna call his name, but he invited us to help do crowd control. This is at a funeral, and do you know that them young brothers? I ain't never seen that many guns at
At a funeral.
bruh, strapped like it's normal
Yeah,
at a funeral.
yeah.
Right? What mindset is that in? Anytime you're killing, you know, when we was growing up, you know, you women and children was off limits.
Right,
Today, they killing women, they killing children, they killing old folks, they killing.
right,
They need somewhere to go,
right.
but not to the point to where you can't get out. Right? I agree with the institutional adjustments. Right? I disagree with using the institution as a place to confine and punish and for monetary gain. There's no standard set for rehabilitation. If there was a standard set for rehabilitation, that means when you go into the institution, right, you go through this course. Like we had a parole date, but a lot of people don't have parole dates, right? They can't give them young people a really life sentences, life without sentences, but they can give you 150 million years.
For my partner, yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But in that 150 years that you're doing, there is no standard set for rehabilitation. That means you do all of your time without the possibility of getting seen, right, prior to that. So I agree with some of these brothers need to be in prison.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
And the Yellow Beezy, we just seen this situation, and I know you have, and right before Yellow Beezy, we got Hood Fame Lil Ronnie. He get gunned down with his 5-year-old daughter. Brother, with everything you have been through, 14 years in prison, everything that you have seen with the young brothers, what is it, man? Like, it seems like all our artists, from God and them on back down, they getting $1 million just to become murder for hire and kill somebody, another brother. What is the self-hate? Like, what is it, brother? What's your opinion on what's going on?
It is. It's deep. I did I spoke on this, and it goes deeper than the surface that we see. If we go back all the way back into slavery, right? And when the slave master, the woman had to be a mother and had to be a wife and whatever the slave master wanted her to be, right? I'm going to show you, I want you to ride with me just for a brief second. I want to just show you when the hatred started. The black woman took the hatred toward the black man, and everything she reproduced after that, right? Carried the hatred for the black man, right? She's in her little hut, house, whatever they want to call it, cooking food for her family, right? Her husband is there, he's eating, the children are eating, the slave master knocks on the door. Come in and tell the wife, let's go. The husband's sitting there. Slave master take her somewhere, rapes her, because although she's not fighting him, she's still in disagreement that I don't want to be with you, right? rapes her. She comes back to the hut, and how do you think she viewing her husband? Right? So in the womb of the woman, it started here, this womb. And then if she reproduces it into the physical womb, and then it comes out, right? And all that hatred that she has for the black man is just being reproduced. And if you look at how our young sisters are being treated now, it's gotten worse, right? Because the young brothers don't have no respect for the sisters today. They B's, they H's, they this, they that, they set them out, they treat them like whores and prostitutes and, you know, getting them pregnant and leaving them and smacking them all in the street, pistol whooping them and everything. But these are the same women that having babies. The anger and the hatred she's reproducing through her womb. So when I see you, I'm seeing you just like my mama seen you, right? I don't see you as my brother. I can't even feel you as my brother. I hate you because that's the hatred that she carried, she carried in her womb, bro. So it started way back and it's ended up now. Do we hate each other? Of course we hate each other. That's all we know. You know, because the first thing developed in the womb of a woman is the brain. She's programmed her child to hate black men. Her girl's coming out hating black men, right? How do we stop it? The only way for us to really get a grip on the black on black violence that's going on in our community is it got to start with the young woman that's reproducing children. There's no love there. The only thing in there is hatred. She hates the way she's being treated. The black woman is the worst, the most mistreated woman on the planet Earth. And we're wondering why the violence won't stop. I had told her, I had a conversation with Heavy D. Remember Heavy D? Brother Muchadir? Yeah. He invited me to a meeting. There was some pastors and the police chief was there. And, you know, I said, you can lock them all up. You can go out there and lock them all up from 14 to 26. Get them all off the streets. But I said a 10-year-old in 4 years will be 14 and it will start all over again because we're not taking care of the mind of our young girls. We getting them, our brothers, we're getting them pregnant. We are physically abusing them. We verbally abusing them. We emotionally abusing them. And they were reproducing all of this abuse in the form of a child. And that child grows up with all of this. And then you attach the music to it. You got to walk and take them.
How do you feel about the music? Like how do you feel about hip hop?
I'm going to tell you something. Boosie said this, Lil Boosie. He said he was famous before he was ever rich. They take out young people and they give them promises to make them rich, right? They make them famous enough to put whatever lyrics in their mouth that's going to get them paid, right? And they use it, they weaponize the music for us. They don't stop weaponizing the music. It was a movie, Ray, you know, and they said that music that Ray was making was too sexual. Not for us, but their children was dancing to it, right? So they went and found Ray and locked him on up. You know, Ray Charles movie. But what I'm saying is, they weaponize the music, they weaponize the womb of the woman, right? They everything that we get, we utilize, they weaponize the food, right? Anything to destroy us, they weaponize it and put it in our community and we run with it. And as adults, right, what do? A child is not going, my son don't listen to that type of music. I got a 16-year-old, he'll be 16 in May, and I got a 6-year-old. My 6-year-old got a phone, but you listen to the music that I allow you to listen to. See, we don't have that same parenting skill that we had growing up. Yeah, you don't listen to nothing in this house unless I choose for you to listen to it. Now, when you get 18 and you're grown, young. So it's.
Do you feel like it's affecting us? Do you feel like it's sending brothers to prison? Do you feel like it's separating marriages and relationships, friendships?
Oh yeah. All of that, man. It's influence, right? Because it latches on to our emotional self, right? So if you take somebody with low self-esteem and you put this music on, and you put a beat behind it, then you got yourself a problem. Yeah, and that is the truth, man.
Right, right.
Yeah. So yeah, they that's why they weaponize it, because it affects us like that.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I remember, bro, like doing drive-bys, listening to that hip hop. A lot of people would say that it's just music. I've never been to prison, but it hit a lot of hood Negroes different. Like they really be soaking in that music because it's a reflection of the life that we live in. You feel me?
Yeah.
And I feel it got a big effect on us. How do you feel about the Lil Ronnie situation with the 5-year-old girl, and these guys kind of trapped this man in? I can imagine what he was thinking in his last minutes, knowing his 5-year-old daughter been shot, and you got a man over here with a pistol, man over here, and you in the middle of it. What did you think when you seen that, brother? With
the same thing I think when this is sometimes it's hard for me to think out of the box. I was telling brothers, we was down at the state capitol, and at this time, this was a few years ago, and there had been like a stream of murders in Little Rock. And we was down at the state capitol. We were angry about somebody being killed all the way across country, right? But we got 16 and 17-year-old, they was shooting up funerals, right? The brother got killed in the bushes down there by 12, off 12th Street, right? So when I see stuff like that, man, this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking there's not enough love to even address it, right? Everything that we do is out of hurt and out of pain and out of anger. We see stuff like what happened with Lil Ronnie, but it happened right here to my brothers. They came and she had her baby in her arms, and they blew her brains out, looking for her son. Right here in Little Rock. It was a few years back. I ain't gonna call my brother name because I don't want to, rekindle that. And after that was a string of murders. So the only thing that we can do, I think, right, is we have to reach and get our young girls, right? And we have to help them develop. Us as men, right? There's so many women going to work and leaving their children unattended, right? We don't have community like we used to have community. Each one teach one. We don't have the every man for himself. Cool Breeze said, every man for himself and God for us all, right? But we got to start figuring out how to develop a community again. And I think with all the stuff that's taking place in Arkansas, they're talking about, oh man, Donald Trump is, and I'm not into all this old politics stuff, but he said he signed a law, now it's segregation. I think integration was probably the worst thing that happened to us, because we were so quick and hungry and starved to become amongst other people, because we have, all of us in America, right? We have identity issues, right? We go and buy everything from everybody. If you were selling something, would I come and buy it? You put your name on it, right? But then for Versace put his name on something, I ain't never seen this Italian guy. I go buy him. I go buy Gucci. I go buy this. Because we live in an identity crisis. I don't think what you're selling is good enough to get me the clout that I need. Why would I need that clout if I didn't have an identity crisis? If I didn't have self-esteem issues, right? So until we can develop our own community and see the need to develop our own community, like Kanye West said, we buying foreign whips, we buying name brand stuff, we buying all of this, and why do we need that? Because we're suffering from an identity crisis. We don't care nothing about our people or our next door neighbor if it's not, and I'm not saying all of us, that's overgeneralizing, but speaking generally, we don't care enough about, there's not enough self-love to even care about what's going on in the community. That's why when Trayvon Martin's in your, what's the brother name that got killed in Chicago, they was protesting about. When that happened, we linked. When police kill one of us, or when a white man kill one of us, for some reason, we angry with him, right? But when I done killed 15 people, I done killed 15 people in the hood, you never hear about it. We don't protest, we don't get angry, we don't do nothing, because there's no self-love there. Self-hatred, right? hatred for white folks because they won't let us do what we need to do. But half of them was so as soon as they get the $2 or $3 million, you don't hear no more about it. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So my issue is with us is right now, we need to feel the pain of the mothers losing children right here in our neighborhoods. We're not talking about that enough. You know what I'm saying? We're not trying to figure that out. We're not having meetings about that. You know, all we want to do is trying to figure out how to allow the government or this institution to lock them all up. But you're not going to stop it because you're reproducing them through the wombs of our young women. And it's not going to stop, bruh. They're just going to continue to make money off of us until we figure out what we need to do.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I agree, bro. And I want to go back to, because I know it's a lot of brothers and sisters that's, you know, going through the same thing when it comes to blaming the parent and when it comes to, like you were saying, low self-esteem. And the man that I'm seeing today, I can't see what you saying you've been through. So can you explain to the youth kind of like what you went through, how you come up out of it, and the strength and the faith, you know, you got today, bro, you know, moving forward?
Growing up in poverty and going to school and not having, not blaming my mother, but not having the type of mother who understood the psychological effect it would have on me, going to school with clothes that ain't, right, going to school with, hungry, hair not combed, and people, back then it was called joning, but, it's called bullying now. And the people making fun of you, right? And then children are mean, bro. So going through all of that, and when I turned 14, started drinking and smoking, saying and that it became a way to mask the pain. But I'm still angry. I'm hurting. So when I got 16, when I turned 16, bro, I'm so angry now. If you say something the wrong thing now, I'm man enough to shoot this pistol, hit you in your head and all of this. So at 19, I was in prison, and what helped me, this is what really.
How long did you stay from 19 to in your 30s when you come out?
Yeah, I was 34. I stayed 14. I went down when I was 19. I got out when I was 34. Yeah. But my problem was I could comprehend street. I knew street slang. I didn't know I was dumb. It's honest God truth. I'm telling you the truth. I didn't know I was dumb until I went to prison and tried to read a book. Right? Because I was so good with street.
Right.
Until when it came to reading standard English, I realized I was dumb, bro. I had to learn to read. Right? Everywhere I went, I had to have, every time I read something, I had to have a dictionary. It took me a while to learn to read stuff because I had to look up the words.
You in prison.
I'm in prison
teaching
now.
yourself
Right.
how to read.
And I caught an assault charge at Commerce, 1996. Went there to Tucker Max and was locked down a year and a half. That's why I started it. Right? Now, Albertus Murray would tell you the story every time. I was on lockdown. I didn't know anybody over there. And I had because they took all my property, and I had a brother, Charles, who brought me into Islam. He got me, he was in another unit, and his family sent me a Final Call subscription, and I had a dictionary and a Holy Bible. And I started looking, I loved the nation so much until I trusted the minister so much that ain't nothing he wrote is wrong, right? And I started reading the Final Call, looking up words, sounding words out. And that's how I educated myself, started teaching myself to read.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and people don't believe that because they see me now, right? But if you go and talk to my family, right, that grew up with me, they'll tell you that.
And I want y'all to know this brother didn't play in prison when it came to the Muslim community, when it came to respect, and what is Juma prayer on Friday. Like this brother was militant, was for his people. The guards respected him. Everybody respected Brother Kurt around the prison. I just want y'all to know that, man, and to see him doing what he doing today, it's a total blessing, bro.
Sir.
To see you still going, because like I was telling you before the cameras came on, is that I always admired your discipline, and I knew once you came home, that brother gonna do what he's saying that he gonna do, and you doing that today. You got family, beautiful wife. You know, is that important in life when it come to, because I think we done got far away from wanting a wife and, you know, the family life and the old traditions. We don't even want chicken dressing no more on Thanksgiving. We rather boil some shrimp. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
What do you feel? Do you feel, what do you feel about that? Family, marriage, and things like that, bro?
I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to answer that question. And this is the truth, that without the Nation of Islam teachings, you know, and the program, the teachings separate from the program. We get the teachings, you know, if we're not, we can apply them to a certain degree, but if there's a program, disciplinarian program that go along with the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the first thing that I had to develop was self-value. And it taught me that, you know, me as a black man, see, you know, we knew American history. You know, we come over here on slave ships. We was in slavery for 310 years, and they set us free, and this is who we are. They didn't tell us about science, that we were the original people, right? And everything comes from us, right? And when I started to develop self-awareness, self-interest, I learned to develop self-love, and that's why I didn't deviate from. So in all of that, it teaches you that family structure is extremely important. You know what I'm saying? Because we've been talking about the, you know, the pimps and the players. You know, if you got 2 or 3 different women and, you know, 4 or 5 women, you, hey, brother, you the man.
Right.
But they don't tell you that having 4 or 5 women don't boost your ego. Right?
Exactly.
Nothing dealing outside of, but, you know, you take pride in looking at your son, right? And running around in your house, you know, looking like you and watching him develop and your daughters, you know what I'm saying? There's nothing, bro. I didn't, you know this. When you come out of the institution, you kind of callous when it comes to, you know, emotions. It was my children that softened me back up. You know, after being in prison for 14 years around roughnecks, you know, you ain't crying about a lot of stuff. You ain't tripping about a lot of stuff, right? You know, all that old touchy-feely stuff, you ain't really tripping about that. It was my children, man, that helped me develop the softness of myself again. You know, because coming from the streets and going straight to prison, man, we don't have that. You know, and when I got a taste of coming home to home cooked meal and, you know, coming home to my children and that my family structure became my identity, right? My family structure became my ego booster. You know, being Kurt Muhammad and, you know, the family man made me feel good about myself, right? Not sleeping with a lot of women. Don't get me wrong. When I touch down, I ain't gonna lie to you, brother. One thing I ain't gonna do, I ain't gonna sit up here and sugarcoat and kick it, right? I slept with a lot of different women, but it didn't feed my ego. I had developed mentally, spiritually, and then emotionally to where it didn't do anything for me. I had to try it, right? Because I thought that's where it was at. But that ain't where it was at, man. When I got married and had my first son, you know, and going to work and coming home, I realized that's where it was at. You know, and yeah, family structure, brother. And I was telling Thaddeus Hamilton, he got an organization called the Father of Faith. And I said, we need to make that popular again. Husband, wife, children, family. That need to be popular again. You know what I'm saying? Because we got music, television, right? Exposure is something terrible, bro, if you expose to the wrong thing. And they made the sleeping with more than one woman and all the, you know, the movies that we watch, you know, everybody's sleeping with women, whoever they want to, they, you know, got all the money riding in the lowriders and all of this stuff, man. That took us all the way out. We did, right? And a lot of the brothers that's inside that institution right now that was in these streets, we set the trend, right? But they weaponized it for us, and we just went along with it, man. And it's destroying us, man. Because
go ahead.
No, because it's destroying us because we don't have family anymore.
Right, and we don't, man, and it's terrible. I really been going out. I got out of relationships. I've been going out a little bit, And I've been seeing older women that got grandchildren and they dressing like
Yeah.
a Glorilla, young, like they
Yeah.
really soaking up. I remember coming up, grandma and them would listen to gospel or the blues or
Yeah.
something. Now the older people is listening to the same
Yeah.
exact music that the young YGs coming up in the game, and I think that's a big disconnect. I actually think, Brother Kirk, that we just headed down a rabbit hole of destruction and it ain't no coming back. I do what I do for the community, give them the wisdom I got. Finna get in the streets with it, gonna connect with you and do a lot of different things. But do you feel is it effective, man? Like it seemed like we just
You know what? This is what I really believe. As long as we don't have control of media, it's just going down a rabbit hole. But when we get control of our own media networking, see, a lot of the stuff that they glorify, they glorify, the Mo 3, and don't get me wrong, Mo 3, you know what I'm saying? I like Mo. Used to listen to him a little bit, but he glorified all the killing, right? But you dead. And the one that's killed you, now that they put a hit out on you, it's two of them that they said killed you, but now, see, that's not, we looking at that now, that ain't hype. It's hype to get away with it, killing somebody, that they typed it, now you're hard. But going to prison, it's just like what little Young Thug, wasn't that Young Thug went through? That ain't hype. Sitting there and can't get out of the institution, the RICO laws. So a lot of the music is about to change, right? Because now, little white boys and, little Hispanics and all of them is following the trend now. It ain't just us that it's affecting. They weaponized it for us, but now it's filtering over into their community. So now they got to do something about it. Now all of a sudden you rapping about killing when it was just us rapping about it and killing each other. It was cool. Now you got these little white guys with the country rap. I mean, sounding like us and sagging their pants. Now we got to change it. Now we're finna start locking them up, taking the mic from them. If you say this, you're going to jail. So until we can change what they use, like the Glorilla, the Cardi B's, the Megan Thee Stallion, they dress them up, make them famous, and set trends for our young girls. And then mothers, that's not because the daddy is what keeps the discipline in the house. Daddy is not home. Daddy make baby, daddy gone. Now mama think that the way to get another daddy is to look like Glorilla and act like Glorilla. So what is her child? We're not setting an example for our children. We're not setting an example in the community. We go to funerals look like we're coming from club. We go to church looking like we come from club. Back in the days, you didn't come to church like that. The pastor would send you home. The usher was cover you up. We didn't have the opportunity to do like that. So until we get back to some of our old roots, things are not going to change, man. We're going to end up in a rabbit hole, right? Until we realize we need to start resetting and reestablishing trends with principles in them attached to them.
And do you feel that when it comes to the Muslim community, I think they got a large community in Memphis, but it mainly like up north, Chicago, different places like that. How do you feel about, because a lot of individuals that never been to prison, they totally against the Muslim religion. So a lot of us, we find our life once we go and get incarcerated. So what's the difference with Christianity, or is it any difference when it comes to being a Muslim? Is being a Muslim being effective today as it used to be back in the past? Our leaders today, I know I'm low on you, but our leaders today is not, they celebrities. It's not no Farrakhan's or nothing like that no more. Can you speak on that a little bit, brother?
Remember, I'm telling you, I had a final call in the Holy Bible and a dictionary. And that's where I started at. The two things that I see that separates Islam and Christianity, I'm going to say biblical and Quranic texts, right, is accountability and a comprehensive understanding of the reality of God, right? Those two things separate the Nation of Islam from Christianity and from Orthodox Islam as well, Judaism and everything, right? In the Nation of Islam, if I get, and I've been put out for fornicating, right? Engaging in sexual activity without being married. I was caught up in the nation, right? And I was put out of my society for a year, meaning I couldn't go to no meetings. I couldn't associate with no believer, other believers, registered believers in the community. I was outside of it, right? You get for smoking cigarettes and drinking, 90 days out of the community, right? Fighting, 90 days out of the community, right? It's accountability. If we said we want a righteous community, you got to have accountability in the community. Christianity, I can go and sleep with as many women that would allow me to sleep with them and say, I'm a Christian. I can go and get drunk and fall up in the church and sing in the choir and I can say I'm a Christian, right? And that's cool. But when you say you're a follower of Christ, I'm a follower of Jesus, things change. Now, the program that was on Elijah Muhammad looked like the program of the church when you say you are a follower of Jesus, right? Christianity, anybody can participate in Christianity, right? But to be a follower of Jesus, there's principles, there's morals, there's guidelines that have to be instituted. You know what I'm saying? So the only thing that's different in that is the accountability and a comprehensive understanding. They're just not. I could be who I am with just the Bible, right?
True.
Because if you go in there and read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and you do as Jesus say do, instructed to do, then you're gonna be all right, brother, right? But if you go and you listen at the religious part of Christianity, you're gonna be in trouble. You understand what I'm saying? Because there's no accountability. Jesus had accountability. You know, the 10th commandment. They was talking about bringing the 10th commandment back and putting it in school. People are angry, right? Because when I was growing up, you was growing up, the 10th commandment was law.
Right.
How often do you hear about the 10th commandment now?
Not at all, really.
10th commandment was accountability. Ain't none. You know, so I think I'm just gonna be honest. The program Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad to me is because of what it does for us, as far as discipline and what it does for us. Because if we're in an identity crisis, we don't know ourselves. All we know is what they teach us in school. But when you start coming into teaching Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, it's going to teach you about self, God, and other cultures of people, right? And from there, you can develop yourself. You know, so our young people really need it because it's accountability. You know, if we go in the streets, if they gave us the opportunity to institute the program of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in juveniles and prison systems the way it need to be developed, you know, then I think that we could bring them in because they need to be off the streets.
Why do you think they shadowing that like they doing Farrakhan? Why is that?
Because it really works, right? And that's why we don't have to go that you know, you have a lot of brothers and sisters come from the streets, you know, but we didn't need a 12-step program, you know, we didn't need you know, self-love, bro, makes it easy to overcome a lot of stuff. Self-love, I don't never think about shooting my brother. That don't even come to my mind because I love black people. But I had to learn to love myself first in order to learn to love you. You know what I'm saying? So I don't, in the Nation of Islam, bro, we get angry with each other, but the last thing you think about is hitting your brother. You know what I'm saying? And we might talk noise to each other, but violence, we don't really think about that. And that's because loving self, learning to love self, man, learning who we were prior to coming here.
And I know you really do have that love for you to fight for individuals that's incarcerated like you're doing with the prison reform, all the people we know that had the life sentences. Like you said, you more closer to dudes in prison still than people out on the streets. So that let me know what you saying is real, and you got to love yourself before you can love. It's impossible, ain't it, bro? Yeah. You got to love yourself.
Self-love, bro. And the teachings of Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the program, under the leadership of Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, you get that. And don't get me wrong, I'm just going to keep it real. We're not perfect, right? The program is perfect. The teachings are perfect. The applications of us is not always perfect, right? So we make mistakes. Like I told you, I was put out for fornicate. You know what I'm saying? But it's accountability, right? So it's not going to let what I'm doing, my weaknesses, affect the rest of the community. You can do it inside of the community until you get caught. But when you get caught, you're gonna be outside of the community for the simple reason is once you learn to love your culture of people and this is your family, you don't want to be away from that. You know what I'm saying? And if they just gave us the opportunity, or brothers like us, somebody who's been there and developed, they don't let us back into the institutions with positive information.
Right.
Because it's not in Arkansas, the definition of prison is to confine and punish. And they say talk about rehabilitation, but that's not real, bro. Because how do somebody how can you rehabilitate somebody that can't even read? A lot of our young brothers down there, they can't even read.
Right, that's true.
Right? Teach them to read first. Once you can teach them to read, give them something good, something that's gonna help them. We can't even read, bro. I promise you, when I was 19 years old, went to the prison, I didn't realize how dumb I was until I picked up a book and tried to read it.
Yeah.
Because street slang, you know, and I hate it so much. I don't even know street trend right now. You know, all that stuff they be saying, you know, my wife knows some of it, children, but I don't, because I hated it, because that's all I knew, right? So now I speak standard English.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When I'm talking to them, I don't care where you put me at. You can sit Sarah Huckabee right here. You can sit President Donald Trump right here. And I'm not going to feel no type of way.
How do you feel about Bunny? Go finish what you have to
I would say because you know who I look up to and who I admire the most is Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Right.
And can't none of them touch him.
Right. And they shadowing Minister Louis Farrakhan, and people love him in the streets that never been to prison.
Yeah.
You know, when they hear him speak, but it's like they want to shadow that man for some reason. He powerful, bro.
Bruh, if you can call, and I always, and this is like my therapy, the Million Man March, right? You got 2 million black men, right, in one spot. No violence. You got Crips, Bloods, Vice Lord.
That's never been done.
And
might never be able to get done again.
that's too much power for one man.
Real. That's what that was.
That was love. And they got that on their own. We didn't pay for it. That was love, and that was respect. Now, after he left there, he went on a world friendship tour. And Minister Farrakhan is from the United States. He's not no president. He don't have no college degrees, but he was meeting with heads of states. You see, got a clip where he was in Russia. They break out the finery for the minister, right? That type of man is the type of man that can rehabilitate us. Bruh, we the greatest, black people in America are the greatest consumers of any man in the world. They need us to buy their products. So this, I was saying this segregation stuff. This segregation stuff ain't going nowhere because they can't live without us. Right. They need us to buy their products. They need us to do this. They need us to do that, man. So it's just the minister. I'm sitting here because of the minister. I'm telling you, I was shooting dice in 8 bags in Pine Bluff, and Bruh Charles, man, listen to this. He had some cassette tapes. Man, I'm high and I'm on this dice table. I don't hear none of that. You know what I'm saying? And I love him so much until he put it on my ears, you know, and I was like that pimp stuff back then. I said, you can talk, bro. You know what I'm saying? And I never stopped listening to him because what he was saying, once I started listening, it made so much sense. It was clear as water, right? So people wonder why people come all around the world to see the minister, to listen to the minister, because when he's talking, it rejuvenates you. Right, it revives you. It starts to rejuvenate our cells, and it's the same thing that if you want a replica of Jesus, the Son of Mary, study Farrakhan.
Yeah, you ever heard of Dr. Umar?
Yeah.
How do you feel about Bunny hopping, brother?
Bunny hopping. I'm gonna say this: breaking down our genetics, right? Anytime we're dealing outside of our race, you're also dealing outside. I heard Denzel Washington say, it's not about race, it's about culture, right? Once we break down our DNA, we splitting, so you got this side and you got that side. Which culture do you start to develop, right? It's not about certain things that we do. It's about culture, man. It's about us keeping us. It's about us connecting to who we are. But if you go into another a lighter source, or go into a white woman or a Chinese or whatever the case may be, right? We start to break down the origin of our genetics, right? You're not going to reproduce yourself. You're going to reproduce a mulatto, or you're going to reproduce something else, but you're not going to reproduce a black man or a black woman. And that puts a child in limbo. So what culture does that child accept? It's going to gravitate to the culture that his mother is a part of, right? And then the desire to understand the other side is going to always be there. So now you got a child who's confused. You know what I'm saying? So I don't, the minister said love supersedes everything, right? But common sense, and science teaches me that it's not natural. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to, say what is and say what ain't. I'm just going to say it's not natural. You're not going to catch a dog and a cat mate, you know what I'm saying? A cat and a fish, so.
I got one for you.
Yes, sir.
You ever discuss, or if you don't have to,
brother. Nah, they don't
yeah,
know
my
who
bad.
he is.
Yep.
Brother
I'm nine.
Nine behind the camera.
Nine Millivision TV / films. I do videography. I do a little bit of everything, and podcasting. Setting up a place for people to come and just kind of tell their
God
story
is good, man.
and do. I love hearing stories like yours. And but me and one of my partners, we always we deep dive, and we ran across the big head scientist.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Is it any? Because it's always like it's a myth. Have you heard of it, chap? The big head scientist. All right. So, from our understanding, it's sort of a myth, but only the Nation of Islam. It's a story that they tell, but as we look, it seems to be some sort of, it's some factual information there that I think. You care to elaborate on any of that, or I mean, I guess it's.
We can call him big head scientist, but it was one of the scientists, right, that understood that opposite, called him Yakub, that understood that the opposite attracts. And he was playing with, this is the teachings of Muhammad, Steele and Magnus, and when he understood that the opposite attract, and he started, as he grew, he started to study, right, and realized there was two germs in the black man, right? He had a dominant and a recessive, right? And I'm gonna tell you why that science is what it is today. Because if you look at the black man and the black woman, and then you look at everybody else, right? We understand that there's a dominant and there's a recessive, because when you look at black people, that's the dominant. And then when you look at Caucasians, that's the recessive of the dominant, right? They didn't reproduce us, right? So we had to reproduce them. And you know how I know that is true is because one sign of it is when they call it tanning, right? But the pigmentation, the chemical that produces pigmentation is melanin, right? And the dominant has it. The recessive doesn't, right? They have it, but it's just weaker. Albinos don't have it, period. So the sun burns them. But when you look at the Caucasians, after they're tanning, what color do they get? They get darker, because the sun, the vitamins in the sun and the rays in the sun, it increases the melanin in their skin, and it produces pigmentation. So Yakub found out a system to where you were just talking about bunny hop. It breaks down your genetics. And what did he do? If I had a baby by a white lady, right, and that child is mulatto, it's going to be this dominant genes is going to start to develop recessive, right? If that my child is going to have a baby by a white person, then whatever dominant was in him is going to continue to break down until it hits the recessive gene, right? And the more we reproduce with the recessive, he's going to get up to the point to where she's going to get to the point to where the child is no longer looking like me or you, where the child starts to look like them because that recessive gene or that recessive germ is in all of us, right? And we produce albinos, we produce light skin, we produce red children. So the concept of Yakub, I've never met him, you know, but the concept, it works. You know what I'm saying? So, but I wish that my wife was here. She's real studious, right? And I'm like more like I'm a logical, common sense type person with the teachings, and she's more a studious with the teachings. But the concept is real, man. Right. And if you go and have a baby by somebody other than a black woman, and or somebody, a black woman who is mulatto, then that child, unless your genes is extremely dominant, that child is gonna come out more recessive than dominant. And that is the truth.
That's fact. I'm saying some truth, man. And I hate we running out of time because it's like I'm just warming up, man. Well, you just warming up. But
rusted, brother. I'm rusted. I'm not telling you.
Bro, is it anything that you want to tell the people? Follow your social media, any type of events, anything?
I don't have, man. I'm telling you, this is the first. I told my wife, you hit me, you inboxed me, and I'm like, I said, I ain't did nothing in a while, so I'm gonna go and sit with my brother and have a conversation with him. I just got kind of depressed, man, with the fact that black people are reactionary, so you got to keep them motivated. You got to keep some hype stuff in front of them, right? Because the stuff I do, I mean, ain't no loud music, ain't no food, and ain't no drinking, right? So it's hard to get black people to come together without that, without those.
That's true.
But I've always been blessed to call on people and to get leads. The last time the momentum that we had before COVID, we had 200 plus people on a Monday at the state capitol, right? And COVID broke down the momentum that we had, and I was never able to get that back. But I would like to say that to people, for those who are incarcerated, first, if you want to help your loved one inside the institution, get with those who are forerunners for the programs, right? We weren't asking for no money, just numbers. You understand what I'm saying? Just numbers. And we couldn't get the numbers, man, because the people didn't understand how important the numbers was for politicians. Now the bill is likely not going to go to committee because they don't, you have to make politicians do what you want them to do, right? And another thing that I would say to our politicians and our spiritual people is, in order to start curbing violence, we need to start paying attention to our young women, right? We need to start developing programs for our young women. We need to develop a safe haven for our young women, right? So that they can start develop self-love and start producing life instead of producing death. Because Jesus came through a womb of a woman, and that woman was Mary. He came through and became a savior. So if our women was getting the same thing Mary was getting mentally and emotionally, right, then maybe we can start producing gods, saviors, instead of Satans and the devil, right? Because, well, bro, when I tell you that I don't fear a lot of things, but I respect snakes, right? Because I know they'll bite and they'll kill. I feel the same way about these young people. I don't fear them, but boy, I respect them. Because you step on their toes, they will kill you. And they don't, so, but I will go in the streets, and help them out because I know how to respect them, man. They can feel the love, brother. But that's what I would say, man. And I really appreciate, coming over here, being able to come here and sit down with you, man. You give me an opportunity to talk, and hopefully this won't be the last time. But yeah.
Man, I appreciate you for coming through, bro. Yeah. Brother Kurt, man, Muhammad, we had to make it happen. We've been in talks with it maybe about 6-8 months. Yeah. It finally came about, bro, and I appreciate you for coming through, man. Yes, you know what I'm saying? Till next time, and this won't be the only time.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And we out, man. You know what I'm saying? We gone.
Yes, sir.